Yes. Yes, we are.
Okay. All right, this meeting, regular meeting of the Administration Committee is called to order. Present are myself, Roxanne Marr, Counselor Mary McGrattan, Counselor Bill Solms, Eric Treaster, Counselor Naomi Rodriguez, Resident Jim Harwood, Council Chair Kevin Dombrowski, Planning and Zoning Chair Tony Capon, Nate Woody, Counselor Whit Irwin, Mayor Allen, Juliet Hodge, our planner. I see Karen. I don't know if that's Karen. I see two Karens. I see Karen Parkinson, Scott Ingalls, Jacob Hurt, Hillary Evans. I don't know who the Karen is who doesn't have a last name listed.
Yeah, I asked to identify, but I haven't gotten a response yet.
Okay, and Erica Mosier. Am I missing anyone? Okay. Citizen comments, and I'll just remind you that you have 3 minutes. I don't know how many people wish to speak, but we have an abbreviated amount of time tonight because we have a 6:30 meeting. So are there any citizen comments? Eric?
Real brief. The only reason I'm here this evening is I noticed that on your agenda, you got a motion to extend Ordinance 300-030, which is the council's short-term rental ordinance. And I assume that everybody knows, but I'm not absolutely certain. But the Planning and Zoning Commission approved its a regulation change that regulates short-term rentals. And so if you extend the town ordinance, it causes a massive confusion. So I recommend that you not extend the town ordinance. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Eric. We're aware. I see Tony Capon.
Thank you. The only reason I was here was to make the same point that Eric made, that the action we took probably renders moot or whatever
Yes.
council had done. I just wanted to be sure that you did that. You knew that.
Yes, thank you very much. We will, yeah, we'll get there and we're aware. Thank you so much. Okay, so I don't see any others, so we will move on.
Mr. Woody has his hand up.
Oh, okay. Nate?
Thank you. I'll be brief too. So I'm happy to see that Ms. Evans' nomination is back for the Planning and Zoning Commission. I'm happy to see that we have the letter from the attorney stating that her joining the board would not be a problem for minority representation, which is the only time parties should be considered in any of that nomination process. I attached my previous letters to this committee and to the town council primarily just for the record, so that it was all in one place. And I see that we have at least 3 former chairs of a planning and zoning or a planning and zoning commission, as well as the current present. So I didn't, as well as the nominee and the town planner. So I'd invite committee members, if they've got questions or concerns about any technical issues with a nominee, ask a question, get the answers. I think all of us who have served on the Planning and Zoning Commission at different times have always been honest and straightforward with you. And I think we can be a resource in that way if you need help or assistance. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, am I missing anyone else? Okay, we will move on to review and approval of prior meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion from Councilor McGrattan or Councilor Irwin?
It better be Councilor Irwin. I need to abstain. I was absent from the meeting.
Oh, right, okay.
I will make a motion to approve the minutes. I did note earlier that I believe it was new business item 3. Yeah, new business item 3 had Councilor McGrattan recorded as an I, and as she so stated, she wasn't here at the last meeting.
Okay, and you submitted that to Roxanne?
I did.
Okay, any other edits? All in favor of approving the regular meeting minutes of January 12th, 2022, say aye.
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 Abstain.
Abstain, 1 abstention, motion carries. Okay, under old business, items 1 and 2 under old business are in fact moot. As Mr. Treaster and Mr. Capon pointed out, the new zoning regulation overrides these. So we don't need to vote. We just need to agree by consensus that we will take no action on these, which will therefore allow the ordinance to sunset on February 26th, and the zoning regulation takes effect on February 27th. Is that agreeable to you, Councilors McGrattan and Irwin?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to take no action on old business items 1 or 2. And we're going to move on to old business item 3. I make a motion to recommend the town council adopt policy and protocols for remote meeting participation as contained in the draft dated January 3rd, 2022. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you. Okay, so we actually voted on this last time, and then Councilor Dombrowski sent it back asking that we tweak. I'm going to lose my place here. Asking that we tweak. Sorry, I have too many papers. Okay. Asking that we clarify the protocol around hybrid meetings to make sure that, so this could get hairy if there's a hybrid meeting and people are kind of all over the place. So we want to clarify that when it's a hybrid meeting specifically, and the meeting itself is taking place in a physical location, that the person presiding over the meeting is in that physical location, along with a quorum of that particular committee, commission, or board, allowing everyone else to participate remotely. So we just want to add that language. Kevin, do you want to add anything else to this conversation?
No, my thought process, and Roxanne and I had talked about this, and I talked to the mayor as well, is that facilitating the meeting if should not be done remotely if in a hybrid setting. First off, so even if the chair may not be present in the meeting and may be participating remotely, that somebody in the room would be set as the chairman pro tem and the council, or a vice chair would be seated for any of the other committees and boards and commissions. But that way the meeting is facilitated within the room that the meeting is taking place. And the reason for setting, and it doesn't necessarily have to be a quorum of the committee, but some quorum number. My thought process there was also that we didn't want to have a case where we have a hybrid meeting and the entire board is sitting remotely, and the only people sitting in the room is would be the residents. So that's why the quorum number was brought up as a possible suggestion.
Right.
That at least that there would be some presence of the board, the council, or whoever within the room. That way, if citizens are in the room, they're not the only ones in the room. And the only thing they're looking at in the case, like in a town council meeting, all the town council members would be sitting in their respective abodes, participating in the meeting, and they're all looking at an owl. Right.
Right. And I would entertain a different number other than a quorum. I just think that calling it the quorum makes it the easiest to
I don't disagree with that.
and enforce. So any other comments on this? I have a proposed sentence or two that I can send to Roxanne. So my proposed addition to.
Councilor Ingalls, Bill Solms.
Yes, go ahead, Bill.
I don't have a
See
particular
everybody on my
solution.
screen. Go ahead.
I don't have any solution, but I would like to make a comment, and that is I have concerns about meeting in small rooms for committee meetings like the Town Hall Annex meeting room with people who are unmasked, and we're just removing our mask ordinance. I also have reservations about meeting in a small space with people who are not vaccinated. And I don't want to get into the debate about whether people have a right to be vaccinated or forced to be vaccinated, but I have personal concerns for my own public health, my own health, about being in a room with people who are not vaccinated and not wearing masks. I don't know what to do about that, but I feel strongly about it.
Would a large enough room solve that?
It would be better, yeah. But still, regardless of the size of the room, now I shouldn't say that. The larger the room, the better, but still being in a confined space with people who could be infected without their knowledge is a problem.
Okay, so I'm
Mary's
not,
raising.
Andra,
oh, go ahead.
okay.
Thank
I would
you.
like to add that going forward, all meetings will be hybrid. It doesn't necessarily spell it out, but this way,
What would you think though, Mary, about having a fully remote meeting?
I think we should have I think we should have hybrid meetings because it will allow the citizens to partake. In other words, if they want to come, if we want to be present in the room, they at least can watch us from home.
Sure, so this would allow for both remote meetings and hybrid. So it continues to include the ability to tap into the meeting remotely.
Okay, so you're saying is that we would,
If you're
meet-
saying that we would only do hybrid, then
No,
that would
yeah.
disallow fully remote meetings.
okay, yeah, yeah.
I
I
don't
can
think we
do
can
that.
do fully remote, right? I mean, when the governor's order expires, we have to meet or offer the opportunity to meet. We can't just do fully remote. We have to be in person in some form.
Right.
Right.
I'll read you something from the June 22nd, 2021 budget implementer. Under the new provisions, municipal public agencies are permitted to hold meetings either in person, entirely remotely, or partially remotely hybrid. If the meeting is remote or hybrid, the electronic technology must allow members of the agencies and the public access to meetings through telephonic video or other conferencing platforms. So I
Mhm.
think we're just safer in doing hybrid meetings. This way it gives everybody an opportunity to have their say.
Absolutely. We do want to do that. Kevin's question is about where's the facilitator and are we going to end up with all of our committee, commission, board members meeting remotely while residents attend a physical location for the meeting and there are no committee, commission, board members there.
But that should be known ahead of time because the moderator or the chair is supposed to notify the members 48 hours ahead of time before the meeting. So that could be arranged that some member of the committee is present at the meeting, you know.
So that's actually the point, is that we want to put language in here to make sure that some members of the committee are in the physical meeting location.
Correct.
Mhm, right. So to Counselor Psalm's question, I'm wondering if that is a separate protocol statement.
Yeah, so I'm confused about whether we have to have meetings in person and at what date. In other words, the governor's orders expire and I heard the June 25th, but does that mean we don't have to be there in person in some form until June 25th?
I don't know.
And I don't think this particular guideline really recommends that or says whether we should hold them in whatever fashion. It just says what the allowable situations are. Or it says if we hold it in person, everybody's there. If we have it hybrid, then everybody has the option to be able to phone in or video in. But, and I think our sticking point on the hybrid is how many counselors do we want live?
Right. And I agree that if we're
Right.
doing hybrid, we should have people
Yes.
present.
Right. In other
So-
words, you don't want to leave the public all by themselves
Right.
in a room with no representation from the committee.
Right. So,
Exactly.
right. So part of the other thing too is we've had, I don't know, Roxanne's been trying to interject here too. We've had for a number of years, the ability for a member to remotely participate in the meeting. That was in our previous policy.
Right.
Right now, I think what we're trying to put into the policy is that you have that the chairs have the option of either a remote, a hybrid, or a full in-person meeting. Regardless of other things, it just allows us to continue to have hybrid meetings if we choose to do so, and we post it within the 48 hours as the statute says. But my fear is the way that it was currently worded in the policy document. It could lead to where none of the members of the board they could all be participating remotely, and the only people in the room could be the residents. So we've kind of always had that policy where a member could participate remotely, with the understanding also that the person participating remotely could not chair the meeting. So this is just kind of putting it into the hybrid format that we're allowed to do. And understand that current state statute, or the emergency orders, I should say, or the way it's worded, that June 28th, that's going away. But I'm also understanding that they're looking to extend that so that hybrid meetings, as to what Mary was reading, would be allowed permanently, as well as remote meetings as necessary.
Mhm.
Right, and that's what I wanted to say. I think, the objective of purchasing the owl and all the associated equipment was, so going forward, and Mayor Allen can comment on this, the intent was going forward, all meetings would be held hybrid. So that way, even if we were meeting in person, members of the public or some committee members that may be away on business or cannot attend in person could still attend via Zoom or whatever the video conference platform that we're using. So I think what Mary was trying to say is the standard going forward is that all meetings will be hybrid, because we have a setup in both our meeting rooms. I don't know, was that the intent, Mayor?
Yeah, that's exactly why we purchased that equipment for that purpose. And just as an aside, I do think it's important. And as I recall, when we allowed town councilors to call in the past, I think we still required a quorum to be present in the room. So we could not lack a quorum in the room and then have a bunch of people call in. And I think we should be looking at carrying the same type of policy forward here, where you should have a quorum in the room, because if the public shows up and you have one or two town councilors seated at the dais, I don't think it's a good look at a minimum.
Mhm.
Well, and this policy is not strictly for the council. This policy will be for all town committees and boards.
Right.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
It's Juliet. Using the word quorum, does that mean if a quorum wasn't present in the room, you wouldn't hold the meeting? Because I think that might be problematic. I might just pick a certain number that you're aiming for, but if for like planning and zoning, let's say we noticed a public hearing, but something last minute, we didn't have a quorum of our members in the room, would that mean we couldn't hold the meeting?
Right. Well, I agree. It's problematic, but pick a number. It's different for
Right.
every committee, commission, and board. So, so that's why I agree. It's not perfect, but I think quorum is the cleanest.
I think you're going to run into trouble with the law. If you have noticed a public hearing and a quorum of your members are present somehow, because they're allowed to be remote and they're allowed to be in person, that you couldn't suddenly not hold that meeting.
Right. So then would it become incumbent upon the chair to make sure that there's a quorum ready to be present physically?
But there also could be a scenario where, somebody's sick or somebody's away and we want to be able to hold a meeting and not have to postpone it just because we couldn't physically get, 3 people there. That might work for council. I would advocate against that for planning and zoning, and try to aim for 3 people there, but staff,
Well,
somebody has
I
to be
would
there to
also-
open the door.
Yeah, I would also add that I think it was back in 2012 when we adopted the initial remote meeting policy. And, at that time, we did not have video capability. It was only by phone. So I think that sort of changes the dimension of the meeting. Whereas before, by just telephone, and we didn't really have the capability to have lots of people on the conference call. So I think that was why we were still saying we needed to have a quorum present in the room. So I don't know if that should be taken into consideration as well. Like Julia is saying, you know, maybe we should come up with some type of table that says, you know, if you have a member of 7, 4 in person would be okay, and just break it down some way that way. You know, if you have a committee of 3, you need 2, whatever you all decide. But I think it changes the dimension of a hybrid or remote type of participation now that we have the video component.
And as long as you had some caveat that said that the meeting, you know, certain meetings could still be held. If you have a quorum participating, whether mixed or remote in person, and that meeting's been noticed, I honestly don't think you could not hold it.
What about pushing the minimum number to the chairs of each committee and the council and let them determine what would be best for them for who's present? Seeing as how people that are remote can be counted towards a quorum for voting purposes. Seems to me like if we let the committee chairs take care of that, they know how their committees run well. It's an idea.
Councilor Rodriguez, sir, I have a question.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
we had a land use meeting on Monday. One of our members was out of town. So that left 2 of us. We're still in a pandemic, and let's say one of them has medical issues and can't show up for the meeting. That means you have 1 person showing up. But if we did a total remote meeting, then you can continue with your meeting. So that's the situation I'm concerned with.
Sure. So if you were aware ahead of time that you have a medically compromised person, you have someone traveling, you knew that ahead of time, you could notice it as a fully remote meeting and not deal with the hybrid part.
Okay, so that option of remote will not be taken away.
Correct.
Thank
That
you.
will not be taken away. We're trying to figure out how to allow for hybrid and, like, you know, back to the beginning of the conversation, not end up with a situation where you have residents sitting in a room with no representation from the committee, commissioner, board meeting that they're attending. So,
Or even worse, you have people outside the building and nobody from the committee is there at all in person. You know, that would be even worse.
So let me take this piece by piece. What do you think of requiring that the chair / facilitator of the meeting be physically present? And I'm talking about hybrid. Be physically present in the meeting space that was posted.
I think that's a good idea, and ask staff to be there too. So at least you have a couple people.
Okay, so it looks like we agree that it's a good idea to at least have the chair facilitator of that committee in the physical meeting space. We agree on that much? Okay. And then the next question is, how many others do we want there? Is 1 more enough? Would everybody be okay with that?
Or you could just, and this is a thought, I mean, the normal quorum is 2/3 for most committees and boards. If you say that present in the room needs to be 1/3.
But that would be 1 person for a committee of 3.
Correct. But that,
Yeah,
but my point is that if you have a 5-member board, I'll use as an example, you need to have 2/3 present, so that would be 3 members. But facilitating in the room, you only have to have 1/3 of the quorum, so that would be 1 or 2. I'm just an idea, just something thrown out.
It's out of line. Can I make a suggestion though?
It is out of line. You may make a suggestion.
So I think part of the reason this is getting complicated is you're trying to make this one policy work for everything. And the policy as it's written says it's for town council. And so maybe address town council, make a policy that works for town council here, and worry about some of the other stuff separately. Whether that means, boards and commissions need to come up with their own policy, or whether they need to follow state regulations. Maybe you can make it easier and just worry about town council here.
This one's actually written for committee. The draft I'm looking at is written for committee, commission, and boards, and actually doesn't even have the language for town council, which is one of my own notes here that we need to correct that.
Oh, I apologize. The one I downloaded says town council policy guidelines. So
Yeah, that's okay. I don't disagree with that, and I had that same thought myself. That it's always problematic when you try to make a one size fits all on really varied things like this. So
Chairman Ingalls, is it in the past, the town council chair has always made sure there was a quorum, or at least we knew if there would not be a quorum for town council meeting? Would that be too much to ask for a larger commission? Like planning and zoning?
Right.
I mean, again, I can say it has happened, right? It has happened when you expect certain people to be there at the meeting and somebody doesn't show up, right?
Yeah,
and it is a thing.
Yep.
I think you strive for a certain number, but don't forego the meeting if that doesn't happen. That's all.
The other thing is, if we're going to be posting all meetings as a hybrid, unless there's a special circumstance and they decide to make the meeting remote, the way state statute is written right now, so say for instance, the committee chair realizes whatever that number you guys decide it's going to be needs to be present in the room is not going to be present in the room, and they want to change the meeting to a remote meeting. Per state statute, that has to be done 48 hours prior to the meeting, which kind of conflicts with the FOI posting of meetings because you only have to post them 24 hours in advance. So that's a conflict. So, if, as Councilor Soms and others mentioned, if the committee chair reaches out and says, how many people are going to be physically present, and realizes that they're not going to have the appropriate number, and they want to switch to a fully remote meeting, and it's the morning of, you can't change it to a remote at that point, per the way state statute is currently written.
Would it
Same
work?
way if there's a snowstorm, you can't
I
change.
agree. That's why I'm saying it's a
Yeah,
problem, because
still can't,
that
based on how it's written.
You cancel the meeting in that case.
Yeah. So would it work if we required that the chair be physically present and at least one other member of that committee, commission, board? Would that bare minimum satisfy our attempt at a one size fits all policy?
I can buy that.
I have a thought that we draft language that says something that the committees, councils plan to have a quorum there for a hybrid meeting. And if for some reason that fails, as long as a quorum is present both physically and remotely, then the meeting can continue. So they plan for it, but in the event that something happens and your last quorum member can't make it physically, you can still hold the meeting. You plan to have people there. Those people that are part of that plan show up, and the ones that just absolutely can't make it don't make it. And then we've at least attempted to get the right number of people into the physical space.
I'm
But
not
still
sure.
require the chairman there. Right?
Right.
Or a chairman.
The problem with putting language in that says, let's try, like, we'll try to get so many people there, is it's just sort of fluff, in my opinion. It's really unenforceable. So the meeting really cannot, if there's no quorum, you can't conduct any legal business. And that actually brings up another point. Oh, I guess that's already in there somewhere. That the quorum is made up of, is the combined number of members who are attending both remotely and in the physical meeting space. So So my recommendation at this point is that we put in language that requires that the chair be physically present to facilitate the meeting and at least one other member.
I'll second that.
And then we're going to have this whole discussion again when it goes to the full council.
Okay, so is that a motion, or do you just want to, it's a working document and we'll just do that for the next meeting for discussion?
Where are we? What was the motion? Drop my papers.
It was motion to recommend the council revise the protocols for remote meeting participation to provide provisions for hybrid meetings.
Okay, so yeah,
So do you just want to treat this as a working document and we can add the language you just mentioned for the next meeting, admin meeting for discussion?
yes, unless everybody's comfortable that this is our attempt. Councilor Dombrowski, what do you think? Is he here? Did he leave?
I'm here.
Oh. Would you rather it stay in admin for another round, or would you?
Yeah,
rather it go to-
I would recommend you table the motion because you've made the motion, so you now have to table the motion. And bring it up at the next admin meeting. And I want to think about it, and I want to talk to probably some of the other committee chairs to get their opinion as well.
Okay,
Because my concern is, and I'm going back to like what Naomi's point was, in the council subcommittee meetings where there's only 3 members, that would mean one absence and both people have to be in the meeting, have to be in the room. So that kind of, so I think we need to think about it a little bit more. But also, I don't want to have a meeting where you have a 9-member, and I'll use the town council as the example, 9-member town council, and the only person in the room is the chair.
yeah, I agree.
Because my fear in trying to do this is that I want to make it so that it's really for the public being there. I don't think it's fair for the public if the only person in the room is the chairman.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, well, I move to table.
Second.
All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Aye. All right, we'll table it. We'll pick it up. We'll do a little more homework on this. Okay. Any other old business proper to come before the committee? None. Moving on to new business. Item 1 under new business. I make a motion to recommend the town council reappoint Ms. Dana Waterhouse, 60 Kings Highway, Unit 10, Gales Ferry, to the Ledyard Housing Authority to complete a 5-year term ending March 31st, 2027.
Second.
So this is a reappointment. Mr. Doozy offered a very, just an excellent endorsement saying that Ms. Waterhouse is the very best resident representative that he's ever had on the Ledyard Housing Authority.
She takes her job very seriously and tries to gather any of the problems that people are having and bring it to the authority when they meet every month.
Nice. So any other comments or discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Ms. McGrattan, would you make the next motion, please?
Sure. I recommend the town council reappoint the following members to the cemetery committee for a 3-year term ending April the 26th, 2022. Mr. William Vidal III, a Democrat, 183 Spicer Hill Road. Ms. Martha Reynolds, Republican, 1684 Center Groton Road. And Mr. Paul Krug, unaffiliated, 67 Pheasant Run Drive.
Second.
Thank you. Again, these just simple reappointments and they're being re-endorsed by the committee chair. Any questions, comments? You ready to vote?
Aye.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, you said aye.
Aye.
Sorry, I thought you were making a
Right.
comment. Aye.
Ready to vote.
Okay. Counselor Irwin, did you vote?
Yes. I voted
Okay.
yes.
All right, motion carries. Okay, Counselor Irwin, would you make the next motion?
Motion to recommend the town council appoint Ms. Hillary Evans, Democrat, 1538 Route 12, Unit 16, Gales Ferry, to the Planning and Zoning Commission as a regular member to complete a 3-year term ending December 31st, 2023, filling a vacancy left by Mr. Woody.
Second.
Okay, discussion?
I would like to vote in favor of this motion. I am familiar with Hillary's work ethic. I am a liaison to the Housing Authority and the Conservation Commission, both of which Hillary is a member of. She's very active and a hard worker. Also, the chair and former chairs of Planning and Zoning have recommended her.
Thank you. Any other comments? Counselor Solms? You're on mute.
Do that all the time, sorry. I'm going to read a prepared statement because there's been a lot of discussion about this and I've put a lot of thought into it. So here we go. In the very recent past, the town council was roundly criticized for voting along party lines, something that rarely occurs. The town council is charged by the town charter with a responsibility to appoint people to certain volunteer and paid positions within the town. It is a town councilor's job to choose the candidate they believe is most qualified for the position at hand. The DTC and the RTC do not make these decisions, they only endorse candidates. In the past 4 years, the council has fully upheld this responsibility and has on occasion refused to appoint nominees from both the Republican and the Democratic town committees. And yet now, despite having publicly expressed my reservations regarding the DTC's single nominee for the position on Planning and Zoning Commission, the DTC is expecting me and the council to fall in line with their demands. Less than a year ago, the Democratic Town Committee even pressured a Democratic volunteer to withdraw their nomination for an open town council seat. Despite that fact, the DTC has provided only one nominee for this position, and the council is not required to accept that nomination, and it can appoint another Democrat if it so chooses. If this nomination comes to the council, I intend to vote according to my sworn oath to uphold the interests of the town of Ledyard, not the directives of my political party. In the past, I have spoken against more than one nominee to Planning and Zoning, regardless of party affiliation, both Democratic and Republican. At a recent town council meeting, I offered the reasons I do not believe Hillary is qualified to serve on Planning and Zoning. I stand by my comments and I have shared my reservations with Ms. Evans directly. I think Hillary's a hard worker and she does a lot of good work for this town, but I have not changed my mind about her Planning and Zoning nomination, despite the outrage from the DTC and their demand that I defend my comments. That would be hurtful to Hillary. I plan to do my job and vote my conscience. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Mayor Allen, were you going to say something about this?
The only thing that I would add, as it pertains to land use commissions in particular, is that opinions need to be kept at a minimum, especially when they're being put out on social media or otherwise, because those particular land use commissions have the highest probability of landing the town of Ledyard in legal disputes. So I would just caution that, when I think when land use commissions, i.e. wetlands and planning and zoning and ZBA come up, those candidates, whomever they are, need to be fully vetted and make sure that, they really kind of stick to the center line.
Thank you. Councilor Rodriguez.
Thank you. So two really quick comments regarding the Democratic nomination for Hillary Evans. It's not that, because I've thought long and hard about this appointment, and it's not that the DTC is pushing only one candidate. The thing is, and I've thought about this for a very long time, there's only one qualified candidate that we have right now, and that's Hillary Evans. And that's why we would like her to move forward. Then another thing is, I was tasked with, I said that I would speak to her about this matter, and I went beyond and spoke to former Chairman Mike Cherry, Nate Woody, and current Chair of Planning and Zoning, Tony Capon. And they all had high regards for her and that she was very qualified to serve on Planning and Zoning. I spoke to other members of Planning and Zoning. Usually when they're telling you that that's who they want, that's who you go with. And with all due respect, Councillor Soms, you made a comment that the DTC forced someone to rescind their nomination for a seat on the town council. That never occurred at all. I can tell you 100% that did not occur. That candidate chose to, for personal reasons, not to move forward. So I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Any other comments? Councillor Irwin, are you okay? So I'm just going to make a quick comment and then we'll call the vote. My concern regarding appointing Ms. Evans to this particular commission remains unchanged. I'm sorry, but there is a history of irresponsible communication from behind a keyboard. To Councillor Soms' point, she has been spoken to about it. It's not new, it's not isolated. To the mayor's point, for a commission that carries the legal weight of planning and zoning, it's a problem. I will not support her appointment to this particular commission. Further, I have no confidence that she would garner the 5 needed votes from the full council. So are we ready to vote?
Yes.
I am not. I'd like to make a couple of comments as well. I have been particularly castigated for my statement that I wanted to see balance in the committees, a partisan balance. I thought that was the gold standard in public service and in a representative democracy, that we have balance from both sides and undecideds. And I was cast to be hyper partisan and a single issue, single thought type person. That's far from the truth. And I find that pigeonholing is pretty offensive. I don't know how the Democratic Town Council Committee, I forget that, let's see, how the DTC can re-forward somebody for the Planning and Zoning Commission who's denied a position as an alternate. It is beyond me. I also take umbrage to Mr. Woody's attempt to castigate the entire board right after our previous meeting, when there are 7 members of that board that had absolutely no hand in that decision whatsoever. Mr. Woody's comments were offensive, I think, to the entire board. I won't speak for everybody, but they certainly offended me. And I think he was misplaced in his anger, and I found his histrionics just absurd. Especially his attempt to do it again at the second town council after that, taking people to task. It still seemed like he was throwing his temper tantrum, doing everything short of stomping his little feet and shaking his little fist. He did manage to throw the temper tantrum like a 6-year-old and take his ball and go home, tendering his resignation immediately. That's not something that I expect. Mr. Woody's recommendation carries no weight with me. I hold him in the same low regard that he appears to hold me. I think that covers the things that I would like to say, at least regarding recommendations. Do we need to explore Ms. Evans a bit further?
I don't think so. I'm ready to vote.
Okay, I am as well.
All in favor of, where's the motion? All in favor of recommending Hillary Evans to the town council for the planning and zoning seat, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Motion fails. There is no other new business proper to come before the committee, and so this meeting is adjourned. We'll see you in a few minutes.